Welcome to One Thought at a Time with Ian Travers, where we get curious about what makes us tick. We're here today with a man who's garnered a following simply by loving what he loves. Welcome, Rich Hoit.
Hello there. How are you?
I'm very well, very well. I'm so glad you've come on, because when we had that conversation, I think stood in the paddock at Brands.
It was, yeah.
Your story, I thought was just worthy of airing. It really made me smile, and I enjoyed the conversation. So I thought we'd do it here.
Let's do it.
Right.
Yeah, why not?
So let's start at the top, Rich, by telling people what do you do?
I basically set up a motorsport fans media news outlet group, I suppose, called TheHardCompound. It's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and on YouTube as well. And it's a one-stop shop for all things motorsport, really.
Yeah, and it's broad, isn't it? I mean, it's basically anything motorsport, 4 wheels, 2 wheels.
Yeah, the thought process behind it was, obviously I've been a fan of motorsport for a long time, but there's lots of pages and groups that do just British touring cars, just F1, just IndyCar, just NASCAR, just World Superbikes, just MotoGP, and I found myself jumping around just to get some fans' perspectives on what was going on, just because I love motorsport, and I thought it'd be good if all this was in one place. I wonder if there's a little niche for that. If there's anyone like-minded like me who likes all motorsport, rather than having to go to a assigned area for it, you can go to one area that's got it all. So I just thought I'd give it a go and see what happens.
And look what happened.
It went a bit crazy. Still not entirely sure how, but yeah, it's kind of taken off more than I ever planned. I just wanted a little hub for motorsport. Just
give us an idea for those who aren't maybe into motorsport. Just how big is big? How silly has it got?
Well, it's gone from thinking I could have a little motorsport page or I can write about my passion to doing live interviews with guys like Mario Andretti and like Jackie Ickx and people like that. And I'm still kind of baffled as to how that's happened. But it's... Yeah, there's now thousands of followers across all the social media channels that we operate on, and yeah, I've interviewed live video interviews. I had one last night. I think it was 73 now I've done, and which is crazy because live interviews, they were never on the radar. It was just let's just put some motorsport out into the world, and it's gone from that idea to what I've just said, the interviews with these incredible Formula One world champions, and yeah, I still sometimes sort of look back and just shake my head and think, how on earth has this happened?
Yeah, it's crazy
because it's just something that I do in my spare time. It's not a job. I'm certainly not making any money out of it. It's just something that, as you said in the intro, something that I've always loved. Yeah. Since I was very small, and I've managed to get maybe one little toe inside the ropes, but yeah, it's gone a bit crazy. It's amazing.
And what is the day job, Rich?
I'm a estimator / quantity surveyor in the construction industry, so absolutely no link whatsoever to motorsport. I was always interested in construction when I was young. Mainly through Lego. I think we all started with Lego and like stickle bricks and Meccano and all that kind of stuff.
Stickle bricks. Do you know, I'd actually almost forgotten stickle bricks till you've just said that.
I had forgotten stickle bricks until very oddly a week ago. I had Jason Plato on a live interview, and he mentioned stickle bricks for some reason. I can't remember the context in one of the interviews, and it just took me back 30 years or more. Stickle bricks. Brilliant.
I've got the pit, and they have a feel as well.
Yeah, it was sort of slightly bendy, but a bit hard, and with little prongs that stick together. Yeah, brilliant stuff.
Definitely a wonderful thing. So you now get recognised in the paddock,
which is absolutely bonkers. It first happened at the British Touring Car Championship Media Day at Thruxton this year. I'd been in Scotland away with the family for the weekend. Went to Knockhill on the way back. Absolutely freezing. And someone just looked at me and did a double take, and I was like, okay, he obviously thinks I'm someone else. And then a few days later was the media day, and I was just walking down the back of the garages, and there was someone. There was Mark Blundell was actually walking in front of me, about 30 yards ahead of me, and coming the other way was a young chap who obviously follows the Hard Compound, and he said, "Oh, there's Mark Blundell," and he started walking towards him, and then he goes, "Oh, and that's Rich from the Hard Compound." I was like, "What the heck just happened?" I've just been spotted by Mark Blundell and me. I'm thinking, this is because Mark Blundell, I was chasing after him to say, "Oh, thank you for doing the live interview. I'm a big fan, trying not to be too gushing with Mark Blundell."
Yeah.
And someone's coming over to talk to me. And I was thinking, what just happened? It was very odd. And he came over and he got an autograph book out. And he had, all the drivers, and he wrote the name, and he had a quick chat with him and took a photo, which was peculiar. And he said, oh, can you sign this? And he wrote Rich, the Hard Compound, at the top of the page. And I signed it. I thought, I'm going to have to create a signature here. I can't do the one that's on my bank card. Very odd. Very odd. And that's happened in most of the events I've been to. There's been only one or two people, but they've come over to say hi, which is lovely.
So that's what you do and what's happened. Take us back then. What was the journey that got you to here?
My dad was into bike racing. He used to have a bike when he was younger. He fell off. The bike went under an articulated lorry. He didn't, and he thought, right, that's enough of that. But he was into the racing, so there was always some kind of racing on TV, mainly bike racing. Then I saw Formula One. It was 1986. Nigel Mansell was the man from the British point of view, and there was Ayrton Senna. They were the two guys that I thought, oh, wow, that's cool. Mainly because of Ayrton Senna's crash helmet, bright yellow, couldn't miss it, loved it. He was in a black and gold Lotus. It all looked very, very attractive. And I got into Formula One that way, and then that sort of became. I saw an advert for the Indy 500. In 1988, and thought, is that F1? My dad said, no, it's this, but you've got to go to bed, it's bedtime.
Yeah.
He recorded it, watched Indy 500, I was hooked on it ever since. And then on F1 support, there was a British Touring Car Championship was on, so I got into that, and then there was the bike racing, and then it all just sort of grew from there, really. And I'd always been a fan, I've always followed motorsport, but we were moving house. I found these race reports that I'd done based on F1 highlights, just in a notebook. I used to scrawl race reports about who was on pole and who spun, because when you're 7, it's all about who crashes. It's like, oh god, he's crashed, and oh wow, did you see that? And just a little report on what happened, and I found them all. And my wife actually said, oh, you could do something with that, online or something. And I thought, oh, okay.
Because did she read it then? Did she sort of read the report?
Well, she's got no interest in motorsport whatsoever, but she had a look at it and went, well, you've obviously got this passion for it, and so, maybe you could do that. And I thought, oh yeah, okay, maybe. Didn't really think too much more on it. I then went to Knockhill with a few friends, went up to Scotland for the weekend, to the British Touring Car weekend, stayed in Edinburgh, had a night out, went to watch some football, went to watch the touring cars, and I thought, yeah, I think I could give it a go. And I set it up, and I set the Hard Compound up a few weeks later. It was basically how it all happened. And just a motorsport nerd doing motorsport nerdy things.
And how did you, how did the Hard Compound name come about? Because I've gone around this many times, and I can come at it from many different angles. I'm just curious as to
complete fluke. I was coming up with what I wanted to do on the page, just making a few little notes. I want to do race reviews, race previews, throwbacks, just pictures of cars and stuff like that, and bikes. And the Formula One was on. I think it was the highlights were on. Some kind of highlight show was on, and it was Martin Brundle. He just said, and in the commentary he said, he's going to come in for a short middle stint on the Hard Compound tyre. And I went, yeah, that'll do. And it was just essentially, it was that. And then I thought, the more I thought about it, I thought the Hard Compound is obviously a motorsport term for the tyre, but a compound is a place. And I thought, well, okay, it could work two ways. You could be in what we call the Hard Compound, and the Hard Compound is a motorsport thing. So I thought, well, I'm not going to come up with anything better. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
And that's where it came from.
I like it. I think it resonates.
When I came up with the name, I told a friend of mine, and this is what it's called. And he said, "That's a cracking name. How did you come up with that?" And I went, "Well, I gave it a lot of thought, you know." Absolutely lied to him through my teeth. Sorry. But it was one of those where you think, "Oh, actually, that is quite a good name." So, complete fluke. Thank you to Martin Brundle for that. If he sees this.
So, is the brand itself is that important to you?
Yeah, I think, you know, if you come up with something, even if you've got no designs on it really ever going anywhere, or, you know, even if there's no plan for it to be big at all, no, not that it is, but you know, if it's just something that you just want to have as a hobby, I still think that it's important to, to give it a name that you like, something that you can push, something that people are going to remember, because otherwise, what's the point in doing something if it's not going to be memorable? You know, I've got the same attitude with work. You know, if you're going to do something, do it properly.
Yeah,
that's the way I've always thought. You know, there's no point wasting time on things that, you know, that you're only going to do at half effort.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is it's important to me, and obviously it's become more important to me. It's become quite a big part of my life. As in, it takes up all my spare time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the actual sort of brand and, you know, and the logo and the colour scheme and things like that, you know, I sort of gave it a lot of thought, and I got a couple of guys involved.
The thing is now it's almost becoming it's now a well used and well known term, isn't it? I mean, if you mention the hard compound, you know, it's not, oh, what's that? You know, if you're anything in the motorsport space, you've probably heard of this.
Which again is crazy, because I've not really spent any money at all trying to get it out there. I'm not advertising it. I'm not doing paid adverts on social media or anything like that. I'm a bit too tight-fisted for that. But it's kind of crazy. I've had a few comments and a few messages saying, my two go-to places for motorsport news are the Hard Compound and Autosport, which kind of blew my mind. It was like, really? But Autosport's this huge establishment. They've got their own show. They take over the NEC. They've been putting magazines out. I mean, I had Autosport magazines when I was 5. And they're still putting them out. And for 2 or 3 people to say that was pretty amazing. I mean, okay, it's only 2 or 3 people in the world, but it's 2 or 3 people more than I thought would ever say it.
Isn't it bizarre? In today's world, you can achieve so much more with so much less now, can't you? Because so that's obviously come from, you know, publishing, the overhead of issuing publishing a magazine and all that kind of thing, that, if you like, the traditional route. Whereas, you know, this has just been born out of love and passion.
Yeah.
On a framework that we all have available to us.
Yeah.
And
I'm just a guy with a laptop and a phone with access to social media, just as everyone else has.
What do you get from it?
The whole point of the Hard Compound was always just to share a love of motorsport, which is a polite way of, again, calling myself a motorsport nerd. I like to think I know a little bit about motorsport through the years. I've got one of those brains that retains information, but only the useless stuff. Things, really important things. You know, I still need reminders to pick the kids up from school, but I know the next 7 or 8 posts that are going out on the Hard Compound because it. But and I just thought, well, if I can just introduce 1 or 2 people into other kinds of motorsport, while sharing an enthusiasm for it, then I suppose that would be nice.
Where do you see it going? Do you have any thoughts about where you'd like to take it?
Again, not really. I mean, obviously, it'd be lovely if I could make some money out of it. That would be lovely. Or if it could lead to, I don't know, more work within motorsport and the motorsport media, especially on the live interview side, which we do a lot of. There's no set plan. Maybe it's time to start hatching one and start going down a route.
Yeah.
But obviously with a day job and a young family to support, I'm very wary about taking a risk and the balance and everything else like that, more for the family than myself.
And I suppose that the thing is, at the minute, you're doing it for the very, very best of reasons, aren't you? It's a passion which you're following. And I guess on that tack, are there any events which you've not covered that are on your list that you'd love to cover?
Yeah, there's loads. There's so many. Obviously, the big one this year, which I did personally with some friends, we went out to the Indianapolis 500, which is something that I'd wanted to do, as I said, since I was 7. Unfortunately, the internet connection wasn't very good, so I couldn't do much live. But I put loads out about the Indy 500, and there's a lot of people who've come back and said, we've started following it because of what you've put out, and because you obviously are very excited about going and all that kind of thing. But unfortunately, the non-British and the non-European motorsports, there isn't the interest in it, and there's not that kind of fan base. People saying, why would I bother watching the Australian supercar racing or IndyCar, NASCAR, Brazilian stock cars, which is a brilliant series. I keep seeing highlights of that, and it's just mad. You've got like Rubens Barrichello's still doing it. It just looks absolutely bonkers. It looks like NASCAR, but even more mad. So I would love to cover more of the NASCAR stuff and things like that, but there isn't the interest in it. So it's finding that balance between introducing people to something new versus they don't care about that. And it's a tough thing to gauge. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong.
There's any thoughts on next year? Because the Le Mans next year is I think going to be an interesting Le Mans.
Yes, we've got a certain big name coming back. I'll be putting something out about Le Mans. Unfortunately, I can't go next year. It's on the bucket list. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be. When that comes around, there's going to be more coming out. About that brand coming back, coming back to Le Mans, adding an extra dimension to it, and it is one of the best, if not the best race in the world. It's certainly the biggest endurance race.
Well, I plan to be there next year, so we
have to send me some photos.
With pleasure. Yeah, we have we've kind of done a pilgrimage. A group of us. I think the group is up to about 15 people. We've been a couple of times, but then had a bit of a hiatus during COVID. Done the classic a few times, but yeah, it's going back to the 24 next year, and it's special atmosphere.
I mean, I've spoken to a few people that have been, and also you'll know as well. Just exactly what it's like, and it's not just the fans; it's the drivers as well. I mean, again, with the interviews, we've had a number of winners of the great race, and even driving in it, and they said, there's something amazing about seeing the sun come up and people having like campfires or barbecues, and they said there's something amazing about thumping around Le Mans at 200 miles an hour as the sun comes up, and I think that's got to be pretty good from the other side of the fence as well, hasn't it?
Have you ever considered a career in motorsport yourself?
Oh yeah, When I was a kid, I wanted to be 2 things, and I thought you can't do them at the same time. Turns out you can. I wanted to be a racing driver, and I wanted to be the front man in a rock band. That's what I wanted to be.
Right.
That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be Rick Parfitt Jr.
Right.
Or James Toseland. They're the 2 guys. And I guess when I was at school, I was at primary school in the late 80s and secondary school in the 90s. Obviously, this is all pre-social media. The world was a bit more closed back then, and to me, motorsport and music weren't things that a normal kid like me could do. It kind of wasn't accessible unless you had money or unless you knew someone who was already involved in it.
Yeah.
Whereas now you can go and get qualifications. You can get into motorsport in a number of different ways, whether it be as a driver, as a mechanic, as a data analyst, or on the media side, or anything like. And I'd have probably liked to have gone down the media side. I think I've done a few track days, and a couple of people and a couple of the instructors have said that I'm naturally good on the racing side, but it's just a bit scary, isn't it? I mean, I love watching it, but there's no wow. I mean, what these guys do is incredible. But I'd love to have gone down some kind of a route into motorsport and made some money out of it.
Has motorsport ever let you down?
Yeah, I think the more you think about it, the more it's the same in life as well. It's people let you down without meaning to, or knowing that they are. If there's like infighting between two sets of fans, and you think, oh come on, I thought the motorsport world was better than this. So there's that side to it. But obviously, the results we all want don't always go our way, of course. But there's many different ways that it can affect you negatively. Whether it be the results, whether it be, very sadly, just today, a rider has passed away, having retired last year, and that's not a letdown, but you feel bad about something that's happened in motorsport, and that happens all the time. But it's overwhelmingly positive, but every now and again it does just give you a poke in the eye sometimes, and 99% of those times it doesn't mean to.
What would be your hope that the Hard Compound does for motorsport?
It's actually been mentioned a couple of times, a few comments on the Hard Compound. They like that it's neutral, and so they like it in this day and age. You can be absolutely unbiased, see it for what it is, see things from both sides, and that's what I would like it to be. I've always liked people who might always be, to use the obvious example, Lewis Hamilton on one hand, Max Verstappen on the other, and it's toxic in the middle. I want that gap to be smaller or non-existent. That's what I want. That big gap in the middle. All the most of the Brits want Lewis Hamilton to win. Most of the Dutch fans, all the Dutch fans want Max to win. But you don't have to have a go at each other.
Yeah.
When I write the articles, they always lean slightly one way or the other, and there's the odd dig in, thinly veiled, because you need something for people to just sort of just
you need a bit of jeopardy.
Yeah, you need something for someone to grab hold of and go, oh, hang on, or good point, or something like that. But I like to think the Hard Compound is a tiny representation of what I think motorsport should be. Let's love the racing. Let's say, well, he's going to be annoyed that his engine's blown up, or take it back to Silverstone last year. Max is going to be annoyed that he suffered a huge impact against the wall. Yeah. But also Lewis Hamilton's going to think, well, I was alongside him. I backed out. Probably a bit late. The contact happened. It all kicked off, and it's been horrendous ever since.
I mean, at the end of the day, it is supposed to be entertainment as well, isn't it? Yeah.
I had just last night. I had James Toseland, double World Superbike champion, on. I was a big fan, and it was pretty exciting talking to him. And we were talking about unfortunately riders who have lost their lives recently. Obviously, we got like Chrissy Rouse, absolute tragic loss, and many others. And he said, we need to respect the people on 2 wheels and 4 wheels who risk everything, especially the guys on 2 wheels. They risk everything for the show, and it is a show. I mean, okay, it's a business and there's money involved, and it's about the winning. When you're behind the visor, it's about winning and the result and delivering for your sponsors and everything like that. For us looking in from the outside, it's a show. No one goes to watch a boring race. Everyone wants to go and see, close racing. If you like a bit of contact in car racing, that's fine. But it's a show and it's entertaining. So would you go to a theatre and then wait outside the theatre door to have a go at the front, to have a go at the lead character because he got a couple of lines wrong?
Yeah.
Well, no, you wouldn't, would you?
No.
So why'd you go online to have a go at drivers?
I think that's great sentiment. Well, time is now not on my side. I'm going to ask you our last question, and I could. We're going to have to carry on talking next time we're at a race circuit as well, because I could talk for ages on this. But my last question for you, which I ask every guest, particularly with the journey that you've been on, if we could conquer time travel, so you could write the younger Rich a note, steal it in an envelope, and leave it for young Rich to find somewhere, what do you think you'd jot to yourself?
I'd probably say get into motorsport as a career. Get into it early. There are ways to get into it. Social media is coming. But no, I would write to myself, don't think, oh, you've got to have a certain job because that's the accepted thing. If you want to do something, find a way to go and make it happen. I'd probably go to the local kart tracks or to the indoor kart circuits and try and, I don't know, just
Make it happen.
Try and get a job, just, I don't know, moving tyres around or something. Get in somehow and get some contacts and try and get into motorsport, rather than just an interest.
Rich, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on and having the conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you very much for having me on. It's been great, obviously, to see you again and to come and have a proper chat.
Fantastic.
It's been great.
This has been One Thought at a Time. If you've enjoyed the episode, please do like and subscribe. If you want to listen to our back catalogue, please do so in your favourite podcast provider or on the Thinking It Better YouTube channel. If you'd like to reach out to us on the podcast, you can do so on Instagram, LinkedIn and Twitter at Thinking It Better or at Ian M. Travers. And if you'd like to reach out to Rich at The Hard Compound, Rich, how can folks reach out to you on your socials?
Go to facebook.com/TheHardCompound. Go to the TheHardCompound or at TheHardCompound on Twitter and on Instagram. And there's a YouTube channel called, you guessed it, The Hard Compound. So if you just go on any of those four, reach out, have a look and send a message and come on board for the journey.
Thanks very much. So if you have been, thanks for listening.